The Saturday morning sunlight filtered gently through the lace curtains of the Mitchell family's suburban home, painting delicate patterns across the hardwood floor. Anna Mitchell moved quietly in the kitchen, humming softly as she arranged fresh tulips in a vase. She liked mornings like these, the rare, peaceful ones when everyone seemed to be in sync. Mark was in the backyard, trimming the hedges. Their 17-year-old daughter Grace was sprawled on the living room sofa, earbuds in, scrolling through her phone. And Evelyn Mitchell, Anna's mother-in-law, sat at the kitchen table sipping tea, a faint smile on her face as she watched her son through the glass doors. To an outsider, the scene might have looked picture-perfect, 3 generations coexisting under one roof in relative harmony. For Anna, it felt like a small miracle. It hadn't always been this way. When she first married Mark 20 years ago, Evelyn had been difficult. Not cruel, not overtly hostile, but sharp in her judgments, unyielding in her opinions. Evelyn came from a generation where the role of a wife was clearly defined: keep the home immaculate, support your husband's ambitions, never complain. Anna, independent and career-minded, had clashed with that worldview from the beginning. There had been battles over everything from how to season the Thanksgiving turkey to how much money should be spent on Grace's birthday parties. In those early years, Anna often cried herself to sleep, wondering if she would ever truly belong in the Mitchell family. But time had softened the edges. Evelyn had lost her husband 5 years ago, and grief had mellowed her once relentless energy. Anna, too, had grown more patient, more practiced at choosing her battles. Somewhere along the way, they had found a rhythm. Not friendship perhaps, but civility, sometimes even warmth. This morning was proof. "These tulips are lovely," Evelyn said, her voice softer than it used to be. "Your taste in flowers always brightens the house." Anna smiled, genuinely touched. Compliments from Evelyn were rare treasures. "Thank you. I thought we could use a little spring inside." Evelyn nodded, sipping her tea. "Mark works too hard, you know. He's lucky to have you keeping things balanced." It was the kind of comment that once might have stung, as if her worth was measured only by how well she supported her husband. But today, Anna chose to hear the kindness in it. "I do my best," she said gently. From the backyard, Mark's voice drifted in. "Hey Mom, Anna, what do you think about having a barbecue next weekend? We could invite the neighbors." Evelyn's eyes lit up. "That sounds wonderful. It's been too long since we had people over." Anna nodded. "Yes, that would be nice." For a fleeting moment, Anna allowed herself to believe that they had finally arrived at a place of ease. No more constant tension, no more unspoken resentments. Just family, bound together by love, acceptance, and years of shared history. She set the vase of tulips in the center of the table and sat down with her own cup of tea. Evelyn looked content, Mark was humming outside, and Grace, though absorbed in her teenage world, was safe and happy under their roof. Anna exhaled softly, almost smiling to herself. It had taken 2 decades, but maybe, just maybe, peace had finally come to the Mitchell family. Of course, what Anna didn't know was that this fragile calm was only the eye of the storm. That beneath the surface, fault lines were already forming. That soon, the stability she treasured would be tested in ways she never imagined. But for now, in the quiet warmth of that spring morning, Anna let herself believe in the illusion of harmony. And it felt good. By early summer, the first hints of trouble began to show. It started small, Mark coming home later than usual, his brow furrowed, his tie loosened in a way that spoke more of exhaustion than accomplishment. Anna noticed the way he lingered in the driveway some nights, sitting in the car before finally walking inside. He still smiled when he saw her, still asked about Grace's grades and Evelyn's garden, but the brightness in his eyes had dulled. One evening, as Anna cleared the dinner plates, she finally asked, "Mark, what's going on?" He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "It's nothing. Just work." "Work," Evelyn echoed from across the table, her sharp eyes narrowing. "You've been saying that for weeks. What exactly is happening?" Mark hesitated, glancing between his wife and his mother. "Business is slow. A few contracts fell through. But it's temporary. We'll get through it." Anna's heart squeezed. Mark had built his construction company from the ground up. She'd watched him pour his sweat and ambition into it, working nights and weekends, missing school plays and anniversaries. She knew how much it meant to him. "Temporary," Evelyn repeated, her tone skeptical. I warned you about relying on those big contracts. You should have kept your smaller clients. That's how your father ran his business, steady, reliable. The air thickened. Anna stiffened, ready to defend Mark, but he simply pressed his lips together and nodded. I'll figure it out. After dinner, Anna found him in the study, staring at spreadsheets on his laptop. She rested a hand on his shoulder. We'll get through this, she said softly. Together. He reached for her hand, squeezed it once, then let go. His silence unsettled her more than words ever could. Within weeks, the situation worsened. Bills piled up faster than payments came in. Mark took out a short-term loan to cover payroll, and though he tried to hide the strain, Anna noticed the tension etched into his face. And Evelyn noticed too. One humid afternoon, Anna returned from grocery shopping to find her mother-in-law in the kitchen, arms crossed, speaking in that clipped tone that always carried judgment. You need to cut back on spending, Evelyn said without preamble. These weekly trips to the market, all these fresh flowers, unnecessary luxuries. If you managed the household better, maybe Mark wouldn't be under so much pressure. Anna froze, her hands tightening on the grocery bags. For years, she had endured Evelyn's criticisms, biting her tongue for the sake of peace. But this time, something inside her bristled. Evelyn, she said carefully, I'm not the one running the company. Mark's business struggles aren't because of tulips on the table. Evelyn's eyes flashed. Don't be naive. Every penny counts. When your father-in-law was alive, we never wasted money on frivolities. Heat rose in Anna's cheeks. She wanted to shout that she had kept this family afloat through countless late nights, managed the bills when Mark was too tired to look at them, held their daughter's hand when he missed milestones. She wanted to demand recognition for the invisible labor she carried every day. But she swallowed it down. I'm doing my best, she said instead, her voice tight. Evelyn shook her head, muttering, Sometimes I wonder if your best is enough. The words cut deeper than they should have. That night, Anna vented to Mark. She blames me for everything. She says I'm wasting money, that I'm not managing well enough. Mark rubbed his temples, looking drained. She doesn't mean it like that. She's just worried. Worried. Anna snapped. Or looking for someone to blame. Because it feels like she's pointing the finger at me. Mark's silence was answer enough. The tension seeped into daily life. Evelyn began offering advice more frequently, how Anna should cook cheaper meals, how Grace should apply for more scholarships, how Mark should restructure his business the way your father would have. Grace noticed too. One night she whispered to Anna, Grandma keeps criticizing you. Doesn't it bother you? Anna forced a smile. It's fine, sweetheart. She means well. But inside, Anna burned. Each comment felt like a hairline crack in the fragile peace they had built over the years. And with every passing day, those cracks spread wider. The breaking point came one evening when Mark admitted he might have to sell one of their investment properties. Evelyn, sitting at the head of the table, slammed her teacup down so hard the china rattled. This is what happens when you ignore tradition, she declared. When you let modern women run the household instead of following proven ways. Your father would never have allowed this. The room went still. Grace's fork clattered to her plate. Mark looked stricken. And Anna, her heart pounding, her face flushed, finally said what she had been holding back for years. Evelyn, I have given everything to this family. I've supported Mark through every late night, every risk, every disappointment. Don't you dare suggest this is my fault. The words hung in the air, sharp and electric. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her lips a thin line. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Mark shifted uncomfortably, caught between the two women he loved most. Grace stared at her mother, wide-eyed, as if seeing her strength for the first time. The storm hadn't broken fully, not yet. But in that moment, Anna knew the calm was over. The cracks had widened, and soon, nothing could keep the fault lines from splitting open. The silence after Anna's outburst at the dinner table lingered like smoke after a fire. For a few days, Evelyn seemed to retreat, her sharp comments replaced by curt nods and clipped words. Mark welcomed the quiet, burying himself in work, but Anna knew better. She had lived under the same roof with Evelyn long enough to recognize the pattern. The storm always pulled back before it struck again with greater force. And it didn't take long. One morning, Anna walked into the kitchen to find Evelyn rummaging through the pantry. Boxes and cans were stacked haphazardly on the counter, and the older woman's mouth was set in a thin, disapproving line. "You buy too much," Evelyn said flatly, holding up a box of organic cereal. "This brand costs double what the regular one does. Wasteful." Anna took a deep breath. "Grace likes that cereal." "She'll eat what she's given," Evelyn shot back. "That's the problem with your parenting, Anna. You indulge her too much. When Mark was her age, he didn't get to choose. He learned discipline." The words stung, not because they were new, but because they echoed years of criticisms Anna had endured since the day she married into the family. "You think I don't teach her discipline?" Anna's voice shook with restrained anger. "Grace is a good student. She volunteers. She's responsible. Don't reduce her to the kind of cereal she eats." Evelyn's eyes glinted, sharp as glass. "Mark could have done better, you know. When he brought you home, I warned him you weren't cut out for this life. Too independent. Too modern. But he insisted. And now look, financial trouble, tension in the home. Exactly what I feared." Anna's chest constricted. The words dragged her back 20 years, to the early days of her marriage when she was constantly reminded she wasn't enough. Not traditional enough. Not submissive enough. Not Evelyn's vision of the perfect daughter-in-law. She remembered the tears she shed in secret, the time she nearly packed a bag, the way she had forced herself to smile through family gatherings while Evelyn's disapproval lingered in every glance. And now, here they were again, old wounds torn open, bleeding into the present. "Don't you dare blame me for what's happening with the business," Anna whispered fiercely. "I have stood by Mark every step of the way. I have kept this house running while you judged me from the sidelines." Evelyn's lips pressed tighter. "You think standing by is enough? A wife should guide her husband, not just follow blindly." Anna laughed bitterly. "Guide him? You mean control him, like you tried to control every choice he's ever made." The room vibrated with tension. For the first time, Anna saw not just criticism in Evelyn's eyes, but something deeper, fear perhaps or sorrow. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the steel mask Evelyn always wore. "Be careful, Anna," Evelyn said coldly. "Words have consequences." That evening, when Mark came home, Anna tried to talk to him. "She said you could have done better," Anna confessed, her voice breaking. "She said marrying me was a mistake." Mark's face paled. "She said that?" "Yes. After 20 years, she still doesn't see me as part of this family." He rubbed his temples, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "She doesn't mean it. Stop defending her." Anna snapped. "You always excuse her, no matter what she says. Do you have any idea how it feels to live with someone who thinks you're never enough? To raise a child under the constant shadow of her disapproval?" Mark's silence was deafening. Grace, who had been hovering in the hallway, stepped into the room. "Mom's right," she said quietly. "Grandma's always criticizing her. I hear it all the time." Mark looked stricken. "Grace." "No," Grace interrupted, her voice trembling but firm. "You don't see it, Dad. You don't hear the things she says when you're not around. It's not fair." Anna's heart clenched. She had tried so hard to shield Grace from the worst of it, but her daughter had seen more than she realized. Later that night, lying awake beside Mark, Anna replayed the conversation in her mind. She realized with painful clarity that Evelyn's words still had the power to wound her, because she had never fully healed from those early years. She had buried the pain, covered it with civility, convinced herself that time had changed things. But the truth was, the past had only been waiting for a chance to resurface. And now it had. The next morning, Maya stopped by for coffee. Anna poured her heart out, recounting the arguments, the insults, the way old resentments had returned. Maya listened intently, her dark eyes steady. "Anna, you've spent half your life trying to earn Evelyn's approval. But some people never give what you're looking for. The question is, how long will you keep letting her define your worth?" Anna blinked back tears. "I don't know how to stop caring. She's part of this family. She's Grace's grandmother. She's Mark's mother. Walking away isn't an option." "Maybe not," Maya said gently. "But drawing boundaries is. You're not that scared young bride anymore. You're stronger now. Maybe it's time Evelyn saw that. Anna stared into her coffee, her reflection rippling in the dark surface. Stronger. The word felt both foreign and familiar. She wasn't sure she believed it yet. But deep down she wanted to. That evening, as Anna set the dinner table, Evelyn entered the room. Their eyes met across the polished wood, tension humming between them. Neither spoke. But in that silence, Anna felt something shift. The old wounds were no longer invisible scars, they were open, raw, undeniable. And she knew this was only the beginning. It was a Sunday evening when the simmering tension finally erupted. The Mitchell family gathered around the dining table, the kind of ritual that once held comfort but now carried an unspoken heaviness. The roast chicken sat in the center, surrounded by bowls of mashed potatoes, green beans, and salad. Everything looked perfect, but the atmosphere was brittle, like glass ready to shatter. Anna served Grace first, then Mark, then Evelyn. She tried to steady her hands, but they trembled slightly as she set down the serving spoon. Evelyn's sharp eyes noticed, of course. They always did. You put too much salt in the potatoes, Evelyn said without hesitation, taking a bite and setting her fork down with disapproval. Anna inhaled slowly through her nose. I followed the same recipe I always do. Well, perhaps your palate isn't refined enough to notice, Evelyn replied coolly. Mark shifted in his seat. Mom. But Anna's patience, worn thin from weeks of criticisms, finally snapped. Do you ever stop? She asked, her voice trembling with anger. Every meal, every decision, every part of my life, you always have something to tear down. Grace froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Evelyn's expression hardened. If you can't handle a little advice, that's not my problem. Maybe if you listened, we wouldn't be in this mess. Anna's heart pounded. This mess? You mean the business? That's not my fault. I'm not the one who lost contracts. I'm not the one who took risks that didn't pay off. Evelyn's voice rose. And yet you spend, you waste, you indulge. You were never cut out to be a Mitchell woman. I told Mark that from the beginning. The words hit like a slap. Grace's chair screeched against the floor as she stood abruptly. Stop it, she cried, her voice breaking. Why do you always talk to Mom like that? She works so hard, she does everything for us, and you, her voice cracked. You're just mean. Evelyn's face paled, then flushed with fury. Don't you dare speak to me that way, young lady. I am your grandmother. Grace's hands shook as tears streamed down her cheeks. Then act like one. Because right now, all you do is hurt us. Silence fell, broken only by the sound of Grace's ragged breathing. Anna rose quickly and pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her tight. It's okay, honey, she whispered, stroking Grace's hair. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. Mark's face was ashen, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Enough, he said finally, his voice low but firm. This has gone too far. Evelyn's lips tightened, but she said nothing. She pushed her plate away, the scrape of porcelain loud in the tense silence. Anna looked at her husband, her heart aching. Mark, you have to say something. You can't just sit there while she tears me apart. Mark swallowed hard. She's my mother. And I'm your wife, Anna shot back, her voice shaking. When will you stop letting her treat me like this? The air grew heavy with words unsaid, with years of tension spilling into the open. Grace pulled away from her mother, her face streaked with tears. I can't do this, she whispered, then ran upstairs, the slam of her bedroom door echoing through the house. Anna sank back into her chair, exhausted, her chest heaving. Evelyn sat stiff and silent, her eyes glittering with unshed tears, though she would never let them fall. Mark looked between the two women, trapped, his shoulders bowed under the impossible weight of choosing sides. The dinner lay untouched, steam rising from the dishes like ghosts of what could have been, a family meal, a moment of togetherness. Instead, it was the scene of their unraveling. For years, Anna had endured, swallowing her pride for the sake of peace. But tonight, in front of her daughter, she could no longer hide the truth. The peace had been an illusion. The storm had arrived, and there was no turning back. Later that night, Anna stood outside Grace's bedroom door. She knocked softly. Sweetheart, it's Mom. Can I come in? There was a pause before the door opened just enough for Anna to slip inside. Grace sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, her eyes red from crying. Anna sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry you had to see that," she whispered. Grace shook her head. "It's not your fault. Grandma's the one who's mean." She looked up at her mother, her voice trembling. "Why do you let her talk to you like that?" The question pierced Anna's heart. "Because I thought keeping the peace was more important. But maybe I was wrong." Grace sniffled. "You're the strongest person I know, Mom. Don't let her make you feel small." Anna's throat tightened. She kissed her daughter's forehead, holding her close. "Thank you, honey. I needed to hear that." Downstairs, Mark sat alone at the table, the cold food untouched. Evelyn had retreated to her room, the sound of her door closing sharp and final. He buried his face in his hands, whispering to no one in particular, "How did it come to this?" But Anna knew the answer. It had come to this because silence had been mistaken for peace. Because years of wounds had been buried instead of healed. Because a family can only carry unspoken resentments for so long before they spill over. And tonight, they had. The house felt different after that disastrous Sunday dinner. The air itself seemed heavier, as though the walls had absorbed the shouting and refused to let it go. Anna moved through her days with a quiet ache in her chest, her mind replaying every word Evelyn had flung across the table, every tear that had streaked down Grace's face. Mark said little. Too little. Each morning he left for the office earlier than usual, and each evening he came home later, slipping into the house like a ghost. Anna noticed the way he avoided the kitchen if Evelyn was there, the way he avoided her eyes when she asked how his day had been. He was present, but absent, caught between two worlds he could not reconcile. One night, as Anna folded laundry in their bedroom, she finally spoke the words that had been burning in her chest. "Mark, we can't keep going like this." He set his phone down on the nightstand, his face weary. "I know. Then do something," she pressed. "She can't keep treating me this way. And you can't keep pretending it isn't happening." Mark sighed, rubbing his temples. "She's my mother, Anna. She's 70 years old. She's set in her ways." "And I'm your wife," Anna shot back, her voice rising despite her effort to stay calm. "We've been married 22 years. I've given you everything, my time, my energy, my loyalty. Don't I deserve to come first?" His silence was deafening. Anna's throat tightened. "Your silence feels like betrayal." Mark's eyes flickered with guilt, but still he said nothing. The next morning, Evelyn cornered Anna in the kitchen. "You embarrassed this family," she said coldly, her voice low so Grace wouldn't hear. "Arguing in front of your daughter, undermining your husband. Shameful." Anna gripped the counter, fighting for composure. "I defended myself. I defended my daughter. That's not shameful, that's necessary." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "You've always been too bold, too quick to speak. A proper wife keeps peace, even if she swallows her pride." Anna let out a bitter laugh. "I've been swallowing my pride for 20 years. And where has it gotten me? A daughter who sees her mother treated like she doesn't belong, a husband who refuses to take a stand, and a mother-in-law who will never see me as enough." Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. If Mark had married someone else, someone who respected tradition, we wouldn't be in this situation. The words landed like a dagger. For a moment, Anna thought she might actually collapse. But instead, she straightened her spine and whispered, "Maybe if you respected boundaries, we wouldn't either." Evelyn's face flushed with anger, but before she could respond, Mark walked in. His eyes darted between the two women, reading the tension in the air. "Not again," he muttered. "Please." Anna turned to him, her heart pounding. "Do you hear what she's saying to me? Do you see how she treats me?" Mark's shoulders sagged. "I can't keep doing this. I can't choose between you." The words sliced through Anna. She stared at him, disbelief flooding her veins. "You already are," she whispered. "Every time you say nothing, every time you let her tear me down, you're choosing her." Evelyn's eyes gleamed with quiet triumph, though she said nothing. Anna left the kitchen before her tears could fall. That evening, Anna sat in Grace's room while her daughter worked on homework. The soft glow of the desk lamp bathed the room in warmth. Grace looked up, sensing her mother's sadness. "Dad's not standing up for you, is he?" she asked gently. Anna's chest ached. "No, not yet." Grace bit her lip. "That's not fair. You always stand up for him. For us. He should do the same for you." Anna brushed a strand of hair from Grace's face. "Marriage is complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes people get stuck between loyalty and love." "But you're his wife," Grace insisted. "Doesn't that mean you come first?" Anna blinked back tears. "It should." Later that night, she met Maya for coffee. The cafe buzzed with quiet chatter, but Anna poured her heart out in whispers. "He says he can't choose between us. But his silence, it's a choice. It tells me I'm not his priority." Maya reached across the table, her eyes fierce. "Anna, you've carried this family on your back for years. You've sacrificed your career, your independence, everything. You deserve to be more than an afterthought. If Mark can't see that, then maybe it's time you stop waiting for him to." Anna's throat tightened. "I don't want to lose him." "Then make him realize he could lose you," Maya said firmly. "Because right now, he thinks you'll always be there no matter how little he fights for you." The words hit hard. Deep down, Anna knew they were true. Back at home, Mark was sitting in the living room, staring at a stack of overdue bills. Anna stood in the doorway, watching him. He looked so tired, so weighed down, and part of her wanted to wrap her arms around him, to make it all go away. But another part of her screamed that she couldn't keep saving a man who refused to save her. She walked in slowly and sat across from him. "Mark," she said softly, "this family is breaking. Grace is hurting. I am hurting. And your silence is tearing us apart." He looked up at her, eyes weary. "What do you want me to do?" "Choose," Anna whispered. "Not between me and your mother. Between silence and truth. Between keeping the peace and fighting for our marriage." Mark's jaw tightened, his eyes glistening. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. And in that heavy silence, Anna felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She realized that whether Mark spoke or not, she had already chosen. She would no longer live unseen, unheard, and unprotected. The following week unfolded in fragments of silence and strained conversations. Anna moved through her days like someone drifting underwater, everything muffled, heavy, slow. She went through the motions, making Grace's breakfast, tidying the kitchen, paying bills. But inside, she felt hollow. Every glance from Evelyn was laced with quiet judgment. Every moment of Mark's silence cut deeper than words ever could. And every time Grace asked if things would get better, Anna swallowed her doubts and forced a smile she no longer believed in. One evening, after Grace had gone to bed, Anna sat alone in the backyard. The spring air was cool, carrying the faint scent of lilacs. She hugged her knees to her chest, staring at the stars. A part of her longed to cry, to scream, to let the weight of it all pour out. But the tears wouldn't come. She felt too tired even for that. The back door creaked open, and Evelyn's silhouette appeared. "Sitting out here doesn't solve anything," she said flatly. Anna didn't respond. Evelyn sighed. "You're making things harder than they need to be. If you would just learn to adapt, to respect tradition, there wouldn't be all this conflict." Anna finally turned to her, her voice low but steady. "Respect goes both ways, Evelyn. And for 20 years, I've been the only one giving it." The older woman's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. She retreated inside, leaving Anna in the dark, her heart pounding with a strange mixture of pain and defiance. The next morning, Anna met Maya at their favorite cafe. The moment she slid into the booth, Maya studied her face with concern. "You look exhausted," Maya said gently. "I am," Anna admitted, her voice breaking. "I feel like I've been carrying this family on my shoulders for 2 decades, and now I'm cracking." Maya reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I don't recognize myself anymore. I used to have dreams, Maya. I used to want things, for me. But somewhere along the way, I gave all of that up. For Mark. For Grace. For this family. And still, it's not enough. Evelyn thinks I'm a failure. Mark won't defend me. And I've lost myself trying to please everyone." Maya's expression softened. "Anna, you haven't lost yourself. You've buried yourself under years of sacrifice. But you're still there. You just need to dig your way back. Anna shook her head. How? When every day feels like a battle I can't win. By remembering you have a choice, Maya said firmly. You're not powerless. You don't have to keep living in a house where your voice doesn't matter. You don't have to keep proving yourself to a woman who will never see your worth. The words struck something deep inside Anna. For so long, she had felt trapped, by obligation, by loyalty, by the weight of keeping her family together. But Maya was right. She had a choice. She always had. I'm scared, Anna whispered. Of what? Maya asked softly. Of losing everything. Of breaking this family apart. Maya squeezed her hand tighter. Sometimes, Anna, things have to break before they can be rebuilt. Maybe what you're afraid of losing isn't really worth holding on to in its current form. Anna stared into her coffee, her reflection wavering in the dark liquid. Break before rebuild. The thought terrified her. But it also lit a spark, a possibility she hadn't allowed herself to consider. That evening, as Anna cooked dinner, Grace entered the kitchen. Mom, she said hesitantly, are you okay? Anna forced a smile. I'm fine, honey. Grace tilted her head. No, you're not. I see it. You're sad all the time. You're quiet. You don't laugh like you used to. Anna's chest ached. I'm just tired, sweetheart. But I'll be okay. Grace stepped closer, her voice trembling. I don't want you to just be okay. I want you to be happy. Anna froze. Her daughter's words, so simple and honest, pierced through the fog in her mind. For years, she had convinced herself that okay was enough. That survival equaled success. But her daughter wanted more for her, and maybe she should too. She hugged Grace tightly, whispering, thank you. That night, Anna lay awake beside Mark. His breathing was steady, but she could tell he wasn't asleep. Mark, she whispered into the dark, do you even see me anymore? He shifted slightly. Of course I do. Do you? Her voice cracked. Because I feel invisible. Like I'm just a placeholder between you and your mother. Like my feelings don't matter. Mark exhaled slowly. I don't know how to fix this. You don't have to fix it all, Anna said softly. You just have to fight for me. For us. But you don't. The silence stretched. His lack of response was its own answer. And in that moment, Anna realized the truth Maya had been trying to tell her. She could not wait for Mark to choose her. She had to choose herself. The breaking point wasn't a single explosion, but a quiet certainty settling in her chest. She could not keep living like this. Something had to change, whether it meant setting boundaries, demanding respect, or walking away. For the first time in years, Anna felt the faint stirrings of power inside her. Not the power of control, but the power of choice. She didn't know exactly what her decision would be. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity: she would no longer sacrifice herself to keep everyone else comfortable. And as she drifted into restless sleep, Anna whispered a silent promise to herself. I will not lose me again. The morning was gray and damp, the kind of day that made the Mitchell house feel even heavier than usual. Anna stood at the sink, staring out the window at the drizzle streaking down the glass. She was so tired of the silence, of the sidelong glares, of Mark's evasions. The breaking point had come and gone. Now there was only one thing left to do: confront Evelyn directly. When she turned, she found the older woman sitting in her usual spot at the kitchen table, a cup of tea steaming in front of her. Evelyn's posture was rigid, her eyes sharp despite the soft cardigan draped around her shoulders. Evelyn, Anna began, her voice steady though her hands trembled, we need to talk. The older woman's gaze lifted, wary. About what? About us, Anna said firmly. About 20 years of unspoken resentment and the way it's tearing this family apart. For a moment, Evelyn said nothing. Then she placed her cup down with deliberate care. I don't see what good it does to rehash the past. Because the past is still here, Anna replied, her voice rising. Every judgment, every criticism, every time you told Mark he could have done better. It's all still sitting in this house, poisoning everything. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. You think you've been the only one carrying pain? You think you're the only one who's suffered? The words startled Anna. What do you mean? Evelyn leaned forward, her voice low but fierce. I lost my husband, Anna. I lost the man who built this family, who taught my son everything he knows. And then I had to watch as you came in with your modern ideas, pulling Mark away from everything his father stood for. Do you know what that felt like? To lose the life I knew piece by piece. Anna's breath caught. For the first time, Evelyn's words weren't sharp with contempt but raw with grief. I wasn't trying to replace you, Anna whispered. I was just trying to build a life with Mark. To love him the way I knew how. And in doing so, Evelyn said bitterly, you made me feel like a stranger in my own family. Anna sank into the chair across from her, tears burning her eyes. And you made me feel like an intruder. For 20 years, I've tried to earn your approval. I've bent myself into someone smaller, quieter, hoping one day you'd see me as enough. But you never did. The silence between them was heavy, but different this time, not hostile, but filled with the weight of truths finally spoken. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. You remind me of myself, you know. When I was young, I was stubborn. I had dreams too. But life, it forced me into a role I didn't choose. I took care of the home, I supported my husband, I raised Mark the way I thought I was supposed to. And then he died, and all I had left was my son. So yes, I held on too tightly. Maybe I still do. Anna blinked, stunned. She had never heard Evelyn speak so openly, so vulnerably. For a moment, she saw not the sharp mother-in-law who had haunted her marriage, but a woman who had carried her own burdens, her own disappointments. Evelyn, Anna said softly, I'm not your enemy. I never was. I'm your son's wife. I'm Grace's mother. We're family, whether you accept me or not. But I can't keep living like this, feeling small, unseen, disrespected. I won't let my daughter grow up thinking this is what a woman's worth looks like. Evelyn's eyes glistened, though she quickly blinked the tears away. You think I don't love you? That I don't love Grace? My way of showing it may be flawed, but everything I do, it's because I'm terrified of losing what's left of my family. Anna swallowed hard. Then stop pushing us away. Stop tearing me down when what I need is your support. The older woman looked down at her hands, the silence stretching. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, maybe I don't know how. For the first time in years, Anna reached across the table and took Evelyn's hand. The gesture surprised them both. Then let's learn, she said quietly. For Grace's sake. For Mark's. For us. Evelyn's lips trembled, and though no words came, she didn't pull her hand away. That evening, when Mark came home, he found his mother and his wife sitting across from each other in the kitchen, their faces pale but calm. The tension was still there, but something had shifted, an uneasy truce, perhaps, or the first fragile steps toward understanding. Anna looked at him, her eyes steady. We talked. Mark's brow furrowed. And we're not healed, Anna admitted. But for the first time, we're honest. That's a start. Evelyn nodded faintly, her expression unreadable. Mark exhaled, relief softening his features. That's all I've ever wanted, for us to find peace. Anna's gaze lingered on him, a bittersweet smile on her lips. Peace doesn't come from silence, Mark. It comes from truth. And tonight, we finally began. Later, as Anna lay in bed, she reflected on the conversation. The wounds weren't gone, they never would be, but they were no longer festering in the dark. For the first time, she saw Evelyn not just as a critic, but as a woman shaped by loss, fear, and love expressed the only way she knew. And in that fragile recognition, Anna found a sliver of hope. The days after Anna's conversation with Evelyn felt strangely lighter, though the air inside the Mitchell home was still fragile, like a vase glued back together, whole, but with cracks that would always show. For once, Evelyn held her tongue at dinner. She didn't praise, but she also didn't criticize. Grace noticed first, glancing between her mother and grandmother with cautious eyes. Are you two okay now? She asked one evening, pushing peas around her plate. Anna and Evelyn exchanged a look. It wasn't friendship, not yet. But it was no longer open warfare. We're trying, Anna said honestly. Grace smiled faintly. That's good enough for me. Mark exhaled in visible relief, though Anna caught the way his shoulders sagged, not from victory, but from the awareness of how close they'd come to breaking entirely. The following weekend, Anna suggested something she never would have before. "Why don't we all cook together? Grace can make dessert, Evelyn can handle the salad, and I'll do the main course." Evelyn hesitated, her mouth twitching as if to reject the idea. But then, to Anna's surprise, she nodded. In the kitchen, the atmosphere was awkward at first, Grace cracking jokes to fill the silence, Anna giving instructions carefully, Evelyn chopping vegetables with rigid precision. But slowly, the tension eased. Grace sprinkled flour on her nose, making her grandmother laugh for the first time in weeks. Anna paused, taking in the scene, her daughter bridging the gap, her mother-in-law letting her guard down, her husband standing by with a small hopeful smile. For the first time in a long while, the kitchen felt like the heart of the family again. Later that night, after Grace had gone to bed, Anna sat with Mark on the porch. The spring air was cool, carrying the scent of blooming lilacs. "You've been quiet," Anna said softly. Mark looked at her, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I failed you." Anna's chest tightened. "Mark." "No," he said firmly. "For years, I let Mom's voice drown out yours. I thought avoiding conflict was protecting everyone, but all it did was leave you alone in the fight. That's not the husband you deserve." Tears filled Anna's eyes, but this time they were not from anger, they were from the relief of finally being seen. "I don't expect perfection," she whispered. "I just need you to stand beside me. Not behind me. Not in silence. Beside me." Mark took her hand, his grip steady. "From now on, that's where I'll be." Evelyn, too, seemed changed in small but noticeable ways. She no longer commented on every purchase or every meal. She still offered opinions, but now they were softer, less barbed. And once, when Anna overheard her talking to a neighbor, she caught Evelyn saying something she had never heard before. "My daughter-in-law, she works hard. She's stronger than I gave her credit for." The words weren't said directly to Anna, but hearing them felt like balm on an old wound. One afternoon, as Anna and Maya walked together through the park, Anna shared everything that had happened. "You look different," Maya observed with a smile. "Stronger. Lighter." "I feel different," Anna admitted. "I'm not waiting for Evelyn's approval anymore. And I'm not waiting for Mark to fight my battles. I found my own voice. If they respect it, good. If they don't, I'll still stand tall." Maya squeezed her arm. "That's the Anna I've been waiting to see." That evening, Grace joined Anna in the garden, helping her plant new tulips. The teenager's hands were clumsy in the soil, but her laughter was bright. "Mom?" Grace asked suddenly. "Are you happy?" Anna paused, brushing dirt from her palms. She looked at her daughter, the fierce, compassionate young woman who had witnessed the family's struggles firsthand. "I'm getting there," Anna said with a smile. "Happiness isn't perfect peace, Grace. It's balance. And we're learning how to find it." Grace nodded, satisfied. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Anna sat alone on the porch. The house behind her buzzed with quiet life, Mark working in the study, Grace on the phone with a friend, Evelyn watching her evening show. The family wasn't magically healed. The cracks were still there. Arguments would happen again. But now, there was honesty where there had once been silence, effort where there had once been blame. Anna breathed deeply, letting the cool evening air fill her lungs. For years, she had felt like an outsider in her own home. For years, she had bent and broken herself to keep the illusion of peace. But now, she stood stronger, grounded in her own worth. Evelyn would never fully change, and Mark would never be perfect. But Anna no longer needed perfection. She had found her own balance, a new way of living where her voice mattered, her strength was visible, and her daughter could see what resilience looked like. And that, she realized, was enough. Anna smiled softly, the lilacs swaying in the breeze. It wasn't the end of the story. It was a new balance, a new chapter in a life still unfolding. And this time, she wasn't afraid.